Welcome. I'm Brian Brewer. Welcome to the Building Online Empires podcast. Today, we have a guest joining us with many years of experience operating online businesses from Amazon FBA to affiliate sites. So, Blair Quane from the site EmilyAndBlaircom will be giving us some great tips and what I think are some important lessons in being persistent, even when every venture you take on isn't necessarily successful. And then we'll be covering this week's SEO tip on keyword placement. So, where should I be putting my targeted or primary keywords in my articles for the best SEO value? So, let's get started. All right. I want to introduce everyone to Blair Quane. Blair is a longtime customer of Human Proof Designs and has many years of experience in online business. And so we thought we'd bring him on today, kind of let him give us a little bit rundown of some of his background, his experience, and what he's been doing. And then he does have a new venture, EmilyAndBlaircom, that we want to talk about, understand what it's about, what it does, why he's launched that venture. So welcome, Blair.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, good to be on.
Good. So Blair, you've been working with Human Proof Designs for quite some time now. And one thing I've always been impressed with you is the different ideas you come up with online businesses. And so what can you give us a little background of when you got involved with online business and why you started that?
Yeah. Well, I think the main thing that I was doing before online was I had a manufacturing business and, with staff, we had 14, 15 staff, and anyone that's done anything to do with manufacturing knows how stressful it can be trying to produce something physical. And so went through that for about 3 years, went through a bit of illness and decided that needed some significant life changes. So I was looking around. I really liked doing stuff online, and so basically looked for online options to do. Initially, I jumped into Amazon and into Amazon FBA, and yeah, got stuck into that. That was kind of when it was really taking off. I did about a year and a half, 2 years of Amazon, and was pretty successful with that. I learned a heck of a lot about online selling, even though you're within Amazon's little platform, or big platform.
Yeah.
You've got to stick to their rules and all the rest of it, which was kind of good because it did keep things reasonably controlled, and there was only a few ways you could do things, which made it easy to get into. And I think that's what a lot of people like with Amazon. So I did that for a couple of years, and then ended up selling those. I had two Amazon businesses, so I ended up selling those. Sort of done my dash with Amazon. I wanted to have a bit more flexibility with what I was doing rather than sort of being constrained by them. So at that stage, I went and bought a portfolio of businesses, well, websites that were or are involved in the transportation, so in automotive category, and we sell a digital product via those. And we've got sites mainly in the Netherlands, but also in Canada and the US as well. So we basically set those up to, I don't know, sort of run as a portfolio. They're reasonably passive, which is nice. It's one of those hard to achieve words in online, but it gets thrown around a lot. So we were kind of keen to set up, this background of portfolio of websites that would sort of keep us chugging along and allow us to do other developments, and hence what we've been working with you guys on, which is the EmilyAndBlaircom project, which we've been doing for just over a year and a half now. So yeah, it's been a good journey so far.
All right. So you mentioned starting an Amazon FBA. So the online businesses you're running today, are you more focused on affiliate or what model are you more focused on now?
Yeah, so basically an affiliate model. So we have these content websites, obviously bring mainly organic traffic into them, provide them with information about the product we're selling, and then, if they click through and they buy a report, there's a report, a digital report that we sell, and that clicks through to an affiliate, and yeah, and we get the a kickback from them at the end of the month, and yeah, it's a nice tidy little model that it's yeah, we like that affiliate model because it's, once you've got your content set up and you're ranking well, there is that element of income that comes along with that. And it's just a matter of updating the sites every now and again. You don't have to do a heap of work once you're ranking. And so that kind of works with us. With the Amazon stuff, that was all very much physical product. So ordering product from China, having it shipped out, dealing with returns and all of that stuff. And so there's a real difference between that physical and digital products. And I definitely had a desire after doing those couple of years with Amazon to move towards more of a digital model than the physical product.
So a lot of our customers, a lot of the audience listening today is focused really on English sites and the USA market. And you mentioned that you have some businesses that are focused on the Netherlands that we've helped you work with. And of course, those are Dutch. They bring a whole nother set of challenges. So can you tell the listeners any hints or advice on and why you decided to target a non-English market?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was mainly the opportunity of this portfolio that we bought. I've always been a person that's been, you know, I don't see barriers, you know, that are going to stop your business. And so I never, when I was looking for these websites to buy, I never really worried too much about the language that they were in or the country they were in. I was looking for the opportunity, and yeah, there are challenges with the sites being in Dutch, and I think probably one of the biggest recommendations I'd make to people is that if you are going to set up business in another country that's doing a different language, or even in another country that speaks English, you probably, if you're using, subcontractors or freelancers, depending on what it is that you're using them for, you want to make sure that if it's very specific to the language, so if it's content writing, a lot of the time it's best to use, so for us, it's best to use Dutch freelancers because we've used multiple different languages in different freelance countries to do these Dutch sites, and we've had a lot of issues over the past few years. And I think any of the stuff we've done with you guys, you've actually sourced a Dutch content writer for us, and that works really well. And I think that's the key thing that people need to be aware of, is that you need to be able to deal with people who are based generally in that country you're selling into. But I mean, the other side of it too is that you get to, the US market is very, very busy and, saturated in a lot of niches. So I think one of the things that I liked about the Netherlands, and there's heaps of other countries where there's opportunities, is that you're not dealing with the level of competition that you would be if you're just, you know, setting up an online business in the US or Canada or any of the other big English countries. So, for me, one of those smaller European countries was a good way to go, and there's definitely benefits of doing that. Although, as I said, there are sort of challenges to work around with it.
Yeah, definitely. There's some nuances with the culture, the country that if you don't have somebody local that understands that market, you can miss very easily. But
Yeah.
it is the niches you're in there are very interesting because they are way oversaturated here in the USA. But in the Netherlands, you're really just competing against a few players over there. So you have a lot better chance of making a successful run of that.
Yeah, and I think it comes also back to my Amazon, I guess, beginnings was that when I started doing Amazon, they were launching out into different countries. And so whilst the US market was starting to get very saturated on Amazon, a lot of other sellers were then starting to push into Germany and Spain, and the likes to get that sort of less competitive environment. And I suppose that's probably, I guess, a wee bit of where I was coming from, is that I'd already had experience through the Amazon platform in doing that, and the nuances involved in setting up in a different country. Although doing it with Amazon was reasonably easy because they have all the systems in place to do that reasonably straightforward.
Yeah. So one topic that I think our listeners deal with frequently is, how to stay motivated and how to be persistent with online business. Everything that you do is not necessarily going to be a success, and there's learning opportunities all through the journey. And you've had sites that you worked with us that haven't been a great hit. Some have. So you tell us, how do you deal with that? What keeps you going to stay persistent? Which I have to say, Blair is one of the most persistent, patient guys I know. I mean, he truly is. So I admire that about you. You're just very persistent. You keep on even when you invest money in a venture and it just doesn't work out, and then others you keep at it and eventually you see it through and you do have success. So, do you have any advice for our viewers?
Yeah, I think it's tricky if you haven't had any success, and you're just starting out. And if you're going to take hits, that's just the way it is. But that's the same in any business, any bricks and mortar business. You jump into that, you're jumping into another whole set of challenges. So I've I've owned a couple of bricks and mortar businesses before this, and the manufacturing business I was talking to you about, it was very much a business that, unless I got stuck into it, it was going to, I bought it as a turnaround business. Like, I bought it for a cheap price, and if I didn't do massive changes to it and grow it quickly, it would have folded within 2 or 3 months. So I think with me, I've always had that sort of persistent and sort of character, but also you've just got to realize everything is a long game. Like, people, there's so much online about, getting rich quick and all this sort of stuff. And it's very rare that that actually happens. So you want to make sure that you're, whatever you're doing, you need to be realistic and be realistic with your goals. So if you're starting an online business, you need to go, right, this could be 12 months before you make any money, and you might have spent 50 or $100,000. It's unlikely that you're going to be able to grab $1,000 and go and spend that and build a business churning out $10,000 a month within 2 or 3 months. That takes time because you've got to invest to get money back. But I think one of the key things that I would say, and something that I'm sort of pushing forward with more this year with myself, is to is set up systems and be organized. So just because you're working for yourself and there's that heaps of stuff online, just sort of takes your attention away from what you should be doing. So one thing I've started to do is block out certain blocks in a day, and I'm not talking about sort of 8 hours a day. I'm talking about a couple of 2 hour blocks, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And that's probably 3 days a week. And I leave the other 2 days for random stuff that I have to do, which just pops up. And in those blocks, I'm doing regular, reoccurring stuff each week. And the point of that is, these are growth oriented tasks. And if I keep doing them for 6 months to 12 months, or whatever the time frame, I know I'm going to see the results I want. And so I think that's probably the key, I guess, suggestion or tip that I'd give people, is set up a system that works for you, whether that's calendars or whatever, but have a regular, reoccurring sort of list of tasks that you're doing each week, because that's the best way to get growth consistently. Because if you're just going about it, right, I'm going to do some content this month, and then, look at a bit of, I don't know, backlinks next month or whatever, you know, you're just not consistent enough to be hammering away at the algorithms like you need to be. If you're doing it each week, you're going to get noticed.
Yeah, that's great advice. I have found myself sometimes getting caught up with, reading articles and researching the industry or other tasks that before I know my day's gone. And so this year I've made a more dedicated effort. Before lunch is operations of human breed designs and all the work that goes into just running a company. And then after lunch has to be marketing and growing, because too much of my day had always been spent in operations and just dealing with the day-to-day work of a company. And then you have no time for marketing and growth and what you need to grow the company. So having a system in place is hugely important. And I like that you said it's a long game. A lot of people need to hear that because it's easy to, write a bunch of great articles and put content up there. And a month later, you're not seeing what you thought was going to be on page one of Google. And you get, very disappointed. But it takes a while. And any kind of online business takes a while to grow. So that persistence is really important. And so you had some knockdowns too. Got you were an investor in the income store. And of course, most of our listeners know that company went under. Many people lost most, if not all, of their investment from that. How do how did you recover from that? You know, what did you do after that to move on?
Yeah, I think the income store was an interesting one because I think one of the key lessons from it is that old saying, "Trust your gut." And my gut was sort of churning that whole year before that, that business collapsed. And I I was actually, I was actually able to I had a couple of portfolios with him, and I actually sold one of them about a year before because of that feeling. I was just like, it just didn't I just wasn't getting the results that I was after. And I can be quite pedantic about following up with certain things. And these guys just weren't giving me the information back. I was getting a lot of excuses and things. So I, yeah, I think the key thing was, it was the income I had invested in it wasn't, you know, critical to my lifestyle in terms of, it
Yeah.
wasn't a loan that I was, having to pay back to someone or a bank or something. So for me, yeah, look, it was a disappointment. I mean, we lost a significant amount of money through that. I mean, I know a lot of other people that were investors in it. There was a whole group of us that kind of went through a few conferences and sort of got the sale and from Income Store and sort of invested in it at the same time. I think there's about 800 of us. And so, there's a lot of other guys there and girls that have lost more than me. So mine was, it was survivable. And so I think the thing that I would look back on and go, right, if it seems too good to be true, it generally is. And the returns that they were giving were really good returns. And very little was shown up front for the actual work they were doing. So I think that's the key thing for people to do is, and particularly like, online, if you're looking to buy an online business, because effectively this is what they were doing. They were buying websites and putting them under your portfolio, so to speak. If you're going and looking at a website or a business to buy, you've got to dig in deep and trust your gut. Try and look for those really, really key points that are possible red flags. And if it doesn't look good, walk away. So for me, yeah, I guess a big decision after Income Store was to move on to a new project, and that was where EmilyAndBlaircom sort of came into the picture, and through Emily and I wanting to do project together. And yeah, I mean, that was the easiest way to do life, is just to move on, and you won't forget about it, but there's no point in dwelling on it. Learn from it, and yeah, invest in better things.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Good advice. So Emily and Blair, so tell us about that. That's something you launched, I believe, last year. And Can you tell us what it is, what that site's about?
Yeah, so Emily is my fiance. She's from Manchester in the UK. I'm in Christchurch in New Zealand. So we're on opposite sides of the world. She moved down here with me, well, just over a year ago, and we wanted to, a joint project where we could both work from home, something she could be involved in, something that I could use sort of my expertise with business on, and something that she could sort of, use her expertise around sort of health and well-being and sort of connect the two together, because I think that's one of the key things about, anything I've found on with my business is that working by yourself and owning your own business, you need to balance that lifestyle and health with the stresses of launching and running a business. So we wanted to put together a web resource which was based along the lines of being able to provide a lot of content to people for free. They can come in and look at the overall process of how to start a business online. And so we set this up with 13 steps effectively. So starting from right at the beginning, what you need to do to, why you should start an online business, and who it's good for and who it's not, because you need to ask yourself those questions before you jump on in, right through all the steps, setting up a website or setting up whatever commerce store or, business model you want to run through, right through to growing it, getting traffic, and then right to the end of effectively selling it. So this is a resource that people can come to and they can use for free to step by step go through it. We really wanted to go step by step. So then, people can jump in at any stage that they're at and still use the website without sort of having to get stuck within a journey that's non-flexible. So we wanted to do that, and then also provide alongside all of those, that journey, we wanted to provide a whole lot of information and other stuff that you just need when you're starting business. So like we've got an education course pages. So if you need to, upskill on through any education sites, you can go to that page and learn how to do SEO or learn how to do coding and things like that. We wanted to provide resource pages where, there's a whole heap of resources there that you can go and use. A coaches page, so you can have a look at what some of the key sort of coaches that we've been involved with, and we would recommend books that we've read, business books, books about starting online and things. So that sort of things, right through products, buying equipment for your home office. The list goes on and on and on. But the key couple of other key areas was, you know, providing some templates for people to use, so make it easy for them. If you're doing a business plan, we'll provide you with a free business plan template, download it for free and get stuck in. And then checklists, going through, and this is what on about before, using checklists to systemize your business and using checklists to systemize that journey that you go through as you're setting up your business. And then also providing a way for people to get connected with other people. And that's, examples of good podcasts to listen to, good Facebook pages to join up with, good YouTube channels to subscribe to it. And the list goes on. And, if you listeners can have a look at the site, they can go through and they can see all of this. But it was creating a big package of free information and resource for people to come to and be able to go through to start a website or start a business online. And we just hadn't sort of seen that in the market. There's websites that give you this information, they give you this part of it, they give you that part of it, but there wasn't really anything that would give you that entire journey. And that was what we were kind of after, being able to give back a bit by, providing that resource.
Okay, so this site is really applicable for anyone, even for affiliate marketers, for Amazon FBA, for any type of way you might run an online business, right?
Yep, yep. So it's universal. It's, it covers all of the different business models like Amazon or affiliate marketing. And, a lot of the things are all very relevant to whatever business model you're in. So there's information about how to set up your company. There's information about your legal requirements and tax and all that sort of stuff. So it's relevant across the board, and that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure that any of the customers or people coming to our site, would find relevant information that was, I guess, pertinent to where they were in their online business journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does have a unique structure here to start your journey, and then as you go through that, it steps you step by step into starting the business all the way through growing it, branding it, monetizing it, getting customers to the exit to selling it.
Yeah.
Um, I think unique. You see a lot of sites cover bits and pieces of this, but this really is the holistic view from start to finish, which I think it's a fantastic resource if you're looking for any of these gaps in what you need to do with your business.
Yeah, I think that was one of the key things we wanted to make sure was that, as you can imagine, there's a massive amount of content on the site. And so for us to make it easy and usable for people, we needed that navigator on the side and step by step, and it just sort of breaks out open and opens up more in-depth parts of each topic as you go through, and you can click through from each article. At the bottom you've got a navigator as well. So it just had to be really usable for people to find where they were and know where they were in the process, as well as being able to jump into whatever stage they wanted to do. Because, at the end of the day, people coming to our site aren't necessarily always going to be just at the start. They might be halfway through and they want to, focus getting more customers, for example. So they can go to that stage.
Gotcha. Well, so tell us, Blair, before we wrap up here, what activities are you doing to grow this site now that you have it? And I know you have a podcast as well that you're using to promote.
Yeah, so we've sort of developed up a marketing plan, I guess you'd call it, which covers off having a podcast which we started last year. And we did 91 episodes last year, so it was a reasonable whack. And then we also did like a social media plan. So we're using a automated system to upload to all of our social media platforms, content and regular content throughout the week. And so we're working through doing that, and more information out on our social media so people can see, what we're about, and come to the site. And this year we're going to have a look at driving some paid ads, and just see if we can play around with a bit more traffic and some more users to the site, because we want plenty more eyes on the site, and that's one of our main goals this year is to do that. We're going to tweak up our podcast a bit this year and change the format to be more aligned. Last year, it was sort of just a bit sporadic around the topics. We were just touching on different topics, and we sort of grouped different smaller subtopics together, but there was no real consistent flow. So this year, we're going to follow it from the start to the sort of the start of starting a business online. And basically, like our website does, we're going to go through each step as we go through the year, so people can just jump in. And again, with podcasts, the great thing is you've got a directory list, so you can jump into whatever step you like, and use the website and the podcast in conjunction with each other at the same time, and sort of just keep aligned that way, as well as obviously getting various guests along to give us insights and keep the interest going, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I love it. It has so much good information, and with your background, years of experience here with online businesses, it's great that you shared and created a resource like this for the community. So thank you, Blair, for your time today. Appreciate it. Look forward to your success with EmilyAndBlair.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers.
So let's jump over to our SEO tip for this week. So what we're going to be covering here is where should I use my target or primary keywords within an article that I'm launching? And so this is going to help you rank your articles better and higher in the search engines. But it's important to get these targeted keywords in the right places. So we're going to talk about the web page URL, the page title tag, the meta description, the first 100 words of your content, and then the subheading placements. So first, the website URL. This is also in WordPress called the permalink. So you can see here in this article, I have Valentine's Day nails. That's my primary keyword for this article here. And so in the permalink, I've got best Valentine's Day nail as words within the URL. So this is going to help you improve your ability to rank there. Make sure those primary keywords are in the actual URL of the page. Then you're also going to want to make sure it's in the page title tag. So this is typically going to be the heading of your article. The title of the article is what Google is typically going to use. Now, in this particular site here, I'm using Rank Map, and Rank Map does let you optimize the title that appears in Google separate from the actual title of the article. So while I have here Valentine's Day nails, feel the love with these top 3 designs, I have a bit different title here in Rank Map. The reason being is I'm using emoticon, the little heart icon within the result, which, yeah, Google does sometimes display the emoticons within the title, and that can increase your click through rates. So, where it makes sense to be able to use that, we would use it. Although it's probably only about 5% of the time that Google will actually insert that, include it within your title. But we do have some good results on this site in using that. So we've done it here and optimize that in rank. Then in your meta description, so this is the snippet, the description that's going to appear in the search results for your article. And so you'll want to include that description here in Rank Math. You can see we have a separate area here where we're going to put in the description. You don't want it to be too long, a couple of sentences up to around 160 characters. And then you also want to include those primary keywords within the first 100 words of your content. This helps to emphasize the importance of those keywords. And then finally, we want to include it in the subheadings. Now, in this particular article here, I included the primary keywords Valentine's Day nails within the heading of the first paragraph. So with it there, I didn't want to include it in the actual first 100 words since it's already part of the first heading. You don't want to use it too much, which gets to kind of a big rule here is don't over optimize. So this particular article here, Valentine's Day nails, we have those primary keywords mentioned 4 times in the article. So you see, we don't mention it a lot, but we certainly have it included there in all the important places. So if you jump back up here, we've included it in the web page URL. We've included it in the page title. We included it in the meta description, and then we included it in one heading or subheading. So for this article, that's sufficient. So that should give you an idea where you want to put these tags at. Keep in mind, just don't over optimize. All right, that's it for this week. See you next week.